Hi, everyone. It's Susan Damiani.
Thank you, Fabian. I think we have to, everyone's unmuted. Well, I hope you like our little tour. Chef Danny and I went out a couple of weeks ago. I think it might have been the first day of fall, and as you can see, the wind, and you can hear the traffic. I mean, the North Fork is still very, very busy, and that day was a Monday, believe it or not, and I couldn't get over all the crowds, but it was a lot of fun. So if you haven't ventured out, I would definitely recommend. So welcome, everyone, for joining us today for the St. John's University Power Hour. It's number 20. By now, I think I've said it enough. My name is Susan Damiani. I'm Director of Gift Planning at St. John's University, and I'm happy to welcome Chef Danny, who's done one of our power hours. He's a chef. He's been a chef for over 20 years. He's worked at top-rated establishments in New York City, from the Peninsula Hotel, Hotel Anthony, Union Club, and the Penn Club. So nice to see you, Danny. Thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure.
And our friends at Clovis Point Vineyards. Every year we have a wonderful summer social at Clovis Point. He couldn't be here with us today. He's a very busy entrepreneur, Mark Misk. He's a graduate of College of Business Administration, 1991, and he is the owner, along with the Misk family, of Clovis Point. But he has put in charge, and very good choice, Heather Consoli, who's the manager and wine expert at Clovis Point. And you've been there 11 years, am I right? Or more?
Around 11 years.
11 years, yeah. So Heather, when we went out, I had Chef Danny, I took him out there to see Clovis Point Vineyards, and we actually wanted to have the live discussion, but because of the weather, we thought it would be best to do it virtually. But what did you think, Danny, of the vineyard?
Oh, we had such a nice day there. Yeah, it was a little windy, but at least it was sunny. So unfortunately,
yeah, we had a great day. So
but it's
today,
great to be able to actually taste the wine, so that I can start thinking about how I would pair it with food, and it was. It's important to get that sense of what you're.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I'm glad we did that, because I was thinking, I said, Chef Danny comes from New Jersey, and I dragged him all the way out to Norfolk, but I don't think it was in vain. I think it was a productive visit, and hopefully all of you will see how productive it is. I'm going to turn the computer over to Chef Danny and Heather, and they're going to go through all the wonderful wines and how to pair food with wines. And Thanksgiving is coming up, so maybe you can give us a couple of tips on that as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Danny. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan and Heather and Clovis Point. It really was a great day to be able to taste all the great wines that they have there, and getting better and better every year, I imagine. And so I really just wanted to say that as far as wine pairings go, for me, the best thing you can do is to start thinking of wine as an ingredient. And when you break wine into its basic tastes, then you can really get into pairing it with your food. So, and the goal of good wine pairing is to balance those tastes between sweet, sour, bitter, salty, etc. It goes on and on and on. And then you can bring out the flavors of your food, and they just, they speak for themselves at that point. So one of the things, food is my first love, but wine is definitely my second love. So it's definitely something that I've always wanted to get into more. So it really was good to be able to be there that day, and to even just to be sitting among the vines that day. You could almost, somehow it tastes better. But so we have a good list of wines that we tasted that day, and from that I did a food pairing. It's an extensive menu if you put it all together, but if you break it down into each course, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have all of this in one day. So maybe I'll turn it over to Heather to start with our first wine.
All right. Hi, everyone. Yes, as Chef Danny said, that's one thing I did mention when you were here, was that's a question I get a lot from customers that they're here, that, compared to where I am and what I'm eating, my wine tastes different. And then I do let them know that your atmosphere and the food you pair your wine with does affect the taste of the wine and definitely enhances it in many ways. So the first one that I introduced Chef Danny to was our 2019 Sauvignon Blanc. And here's what our bottle looks like. Beautiful coloring. This one's one of our most popular, especially during the summertime. Nice, clean, crisp, fresh, peachy notes in the front with a beautiful dry finish. And I'm just going to put that down here. And looking at your pairing, I just think it's such a great pairing because that's one thing we do mention is you can either have it by itself or pair it with seafood or shellfish, things like that.
Yeah, so those are the notes that I get: light, clean, crisp. So one of the things right away it clicked that we would pair it with briny oysters, and there's a great one just in Long Island in Peconic Bay, the Peconic Pearl, that shows up as one of those great briny oysters to pair it with. But there's a whole other host of oysters, even the Kumamotos from California, Duxbury Bay in Massachusetts is doing great oysters, the moon shoals from Cape Cod. So what I like to do is, instead of using the same oyster, you can change it up and maybe do 3 different ones. But and in doing a trio of oysters, you can do one just completely natural, and then you can add things to the other ones. So we did one with a shallot mignonette, and we did one with a gratinée of leeks in a champagne Sauvignon, which is like a very light covering that you can broil, and then it's I think it goes really well with all the clean and crisp flavors. But on the same topic of Sauvignon Blanc, I also, in thinking of other pairings, goat cheese would be great, asparagus,
Yeah, definitely.
delicate fish such as sole, and even an herby pesto would be really good with that pairing. One of the things you want to avoid with Sauvignon Blanc is very sharp flavors. You don't want, you wouldn't pair it with blue cheese necessarily, or spicy dishes such as like an Indian dish or Indian cuisine. It doesn't really also hold up to roast beef or, meat or game kind of thing. So in pairing, we also want to make sure that we also do a little bit of research on what not to pair with, as well as what goes best, So yeah, we in tasting that day back and forth, we said, yep, oysters would be a great one to pair that Sauvignon Blanc with, because it's so fresh and clean, and it just it starts you off on the right way.
Definitely. Great. So the next one that we talked about when you were here, another wine that is beautiful during the summer, and we have gorgeous coloring, if you look, is our rosé. This is made with Cabernet Franc grapes. This has a nice fruity start to it, kind of strawberry, watermelon, rind flavorings that you can get in there. Some say a little bit of a spiciness to the finish, just a tad bit on the finish with and of course a nice beautiful dry finish to this one. So this one that I can see, again, I would lean more towards, like you did here, more of the seafood. I love the idea of the tuna, definitely. I think would pair beautifully with our rosé. One of my favorites that I recommend to people as well when they come through.
Yeah, I mean, it's such, it's a great summery thing because you can have it nice and chilled, and people just love it. And I don't know if anyone gets tired of it by the end of the summer, but you know, I mean, because you're just drinking so much of it, and then you're ready for other notes and all that. But yeah, fruity with the Cabernet Franc as well, and yeah, we're doing with typically, you know, a lot of the rosés are coming from Provence, and so we're thinking along the lines of something French. So we did it with a sesame crusted ahi tuna salad niçoise, and you know, some good haricot vert in there, some fingerling potatoes. The white anchovies will give you that kind of pungency, along with the olives. And, you know, this typically you see a hard-boiled egg in a niçoise salad. So we're thinking with rosés, you're pairing it with warm climate cuisines. We're thinking Greek food, Mexican food, Provençal foods, you know, the French aspect of that, of course, Thai food, Indian food. One great pairing for rosé is a nice melon and prosciutto. I mean, the simpleness of all that, because you have those notes in there. And even with pizza, I mean, pizza and rosé is a great pairing, I think. Grilled fish or grilled chicken. So you're thinking these warmer climates. And again, we want to avoid earthy things for rosé, because such as blue cheese, maybe even you would avoid mushrooms and stuff that's coming directly from the earth type of thing. But yeah, I think you can have a lot of fun with rosé. People are even pairing their turkey with rosé. So
yeah, I was going to say that one thing I've noticed is it's starting to seep into Thanksgiving.
Yeah, keep it around a little bit
longer. All day. So
yeah. Yeah, we're not tired of it yet. I know. I think right after the summer you can go into some of the lighter reds and all that, but then you're like, oh, I think I'm craving rosé again. So, yeah. So we had fun, we had a lot of fun with that. And Heather, you were saying that it's so popular.
Yeah, it's definitely very popular. I'm even noticing with, as I was telling you, Chef Danny, even the younger crowds. It's, I think it's a combination of the beautiful coloring, the fruity flavor, and then even seeped into social media, as I mentioned, the little quote I said before, rosé all day, and it's exploded in the wine country, I feel, and it's one of the many things we are asked, oh, do you have a rosé? And so I definitely see it, hear about it every day, and people ask for it every day throughout every season. So
sure,
it's very popular.
Yeah, it's great.
So the next one that we talked about here is our Black Label Chardonnay. This one is interesting. We call it our Black Label. It is a blend of steel and oak. So it's 70% steel, 30% oak. So it still has that nice crisp start, kind of similar to a steel Chardonnay, but this has a much smoother, rounder finish to it. Some even say because of that roundness to the finish, it tends to emulate a little bit sweeter and kind of a vanilla sweetness to the finish.
Yeah, I remember notes of apple and melon, and it being aged in stainless steel and barrel offers a great, great alternative to just one or the other, And yeah, definitely the vanilla came through in that. So we were thinking seafood as well. Again, we were thinking jumbo lump crab salad type of thing with some, it's got that mayo in it too, so that's going to kind of add that creaminess that you like. So in those apple notes, we put it with some Granny Smith apple and like a celery root type of slaw underneath that, the crab salad, which is mixed with the, micro herbs, an herby note to it as well. So really just a simple, because there's enough going on that you don't want to complicate it too much. So just a simple preparation for that. So
yeah, this Chardonnay, like you mentioned, it's a nice combination of the steel and the oak. So it's kind of a happy medium that we tell people to try out. That even if they're trying to maybe, as palates grow, people like to try new things and go from the steel, the nice medium and gradual introduction to having a little oak in your Chardonnay. And then a lot of people eventually will move on to our next one that we're going to talk about, which is our barrel fermented Chardonnay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll grab that right now. This is our barrel fermented Chardonnay. This is 100% barrel fermented, aged in French oak. It's not heavily oaked. It's actually only aged for about 10 months. So much lighter in the oak finish, more of a buttery, with a nice dry finish to it. This one we were talking a little bit about, again, with that butteriness, more of a seafood, nice combination, like you mentioned, is an amazing combination with the scallops, with the nice buttery flavoring and finishing to that, but still a nice little bit of a crisp in the start as well.
Yeah. I remember butterscotch as well. So
yeah.
Even that extra layer of sweetness as well sometimes. But for sure, buttery notes, butterscotch, vanilla. I think it would go great with a pasta. We're doing a Cavatelli Pasta with cannellini beans, those white creamy beans, and some Nantucket Bay scallops, the little sweet gems, and some tomato in there as well. Just can also cut through that butteriness with the acid, and a saffron broth in all of that. But I think another great pairing would be with meatier fish such as halibut or salmon. Definitely this shellfish, lobster, shrimp, crabs, scallops. Again, we want to also think about dishes that we would avoid, such as spicy dishes, once again, Asian cuisine, bitter vegetables, bitter greens, I think would really would not go well with this wine. So once again, just thinking about what works and what doesn't work. But yeah, nice pasta with that. Sounds like
Definitely.
a good pairing.
This one is a one that tends to be a little bit more popular as you get into the cooler seasons of our whites. Of the 3 different Chardonnays, we see rise in sales in our barrel fermented as things get a little cooler.
Right. Cool.
So the next one, we're going to switch over to our reds now.
Yeah.
So we have some beautiful reds here at Clovis Point. Our first one is our 2016 Merlot, that one we talked about when you were here, Chef Danny. This one's drinking gorgeously, full-bodied. We always say a little cherry note in the front. People are asking a little bit more about something that has a little bit more fruity flavors in our reds. I tend to talk to them a little bit about the Merlot because of that nice cherry start to it. But then a very full body, very robust, dry finish to this one. This one has a little kind of a little vanilla-ness to it, a little bay leaf flavoring in there, towards the finish. And then, like I said, it's kind of velvety on the tongue. This is one of my favorites when it comes to that nice velvet finish.
Yeah, this was really great. even if Merlot is not your first choice, even if it's not your go-to. I know that it's, I don't know, I feel like it's lost a little popularity in recent years, but, because it's got those tannins to it and that note that kind of dries your mouth a little bit, so people sometimes shy away from it. But this was really tasty. Black cherry. Even when you say vanilla, I was even tasting chocolate. So it was. It really holds up to grilled meats, poultry for sure, lamb, dishes that are using tomatoes. And you can finally have some blue cheese now with your Merlot. So, because that's, so in that bay leaf note, I think that always reminds me of the fall flavors, and I think this would be great with roast turkey. Mm-hmm. So you can also bring this out for Thanksgiving after you finish the rosé. So you can.
This one definitely, like you mentioned before, the popularity. When I first started, like I mentioned, I've been here a little while now, and when I first started, I tend to notice that people constantly asking for Merlot. They wanted Merlot. Merlot seemed to be the most popular thing everybody asked for when I first started working here, and I'm starting to see a little bit of a transition, like you said, where I'm getting people are diehard Merlot fans, and they come in and they want their Merlot, and then I have people say, "Oh, I'm not a fan of Merlot," and I always do tell them to try things out. And I've recently I've come across people that didn't really want to try it, and I don't know, somehow I convinced them. I don't know what I did to convince them, but they did try it, and I said, "Oh, it's not." It's a little. I love the smoothness to the finish, and I taste that cherry note that you're mentioning, that black cherry, and they're like, and that I always get, for Merlot, this is really nice, and I kind of laugh, and I said, yeah, wait, we'll have a beautiful Merlot here, and I have seen that transition, like you were saying, where that was something I remember when I first started being the thing everybody asked for. Oh, red, I want Merlot. And I'm starting to see it transition a little bit over to the next wine that we're going to talk about, which is becoming hugely popular here on the North Fork. So I don't know if you want to add a little bit more to the Merlot, or do you want to?
What is your obviously you would avoid seafood dishes with Merlot. What is your take on spicy foods? Because in doing some research, I've learned that you should avoid it, but I don't know. I feel like maybe you could play around with some light spice with this wine.
Again,
maybe sweeter spices type of thing, like those fall spices, like you would do, like cinnamon and nutmeg and cloves.
Yeah,
type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't go too spicy, I think, with this one. I think we have other ones that would pair much better with a more spice. But those like a nutmeg or a cinnamon, kind of like the folly. I like to call them pumpkin or Halloween type spices or fall autumn spices.
I see you're avoiding the pumpkin spice term.
Yes, I'm trying to. And pumpkin keeps popping into my head.
It's so hard
more
to avoid.
Yes, but I would say that a cinnamon and nutmeg or things like that. Yeah. But definitely, like you were saying, this is a nice one to have at Thanksgiving.
We
something to have to if you're going to bring along with you. If you're not hosting and you want to bring a beautiful gift, can't go wrong with a nice Merlot.
And we just paired it with with the turkey. We did like a mushroom and cranberry and rice kind of stuffing with some glazed fennel and the nice sage jus with that. So just a light natural juice from the turkey. And great fall herb sage that we bring out around this time of year. So
definitely. All right, wonderful. So I will move to the next one that we have here.
Yeah.
Look at it. Only over here. This is actually one of my favorites of our reds. People ask a lot when they come in, what's your favorite? And I think they like to hear, as somebody that works here and someone that works with wine, often what your favorite is. And my absolute favorite of our reds is our Cabernet Franc. This is our 2016 Cabernet Franc. Has a nice earthy, kind of even a blueberry flavoring to the start, so kind of like a combination in the start, and then a nice, I would say, nice spiciness to the finish. This one has a lot of different flavors going on the tongue, and just something about it. It finishes off very nicely. That for me, it just keeps me wanting to go back for another sip. It is this is, like I mentioned with the Merlot, how things are starting to switch over. Again, going back to when I first started, people would come in and they would ask, do you have a Cabernet? And I said, oh, we have a Cabernet Franc. What's that? Not many people knew what Cabernet Franc was. When I first started, that is something I experienced here as a server. And they'd be, oh, is it similar to a Cab Sauv? And I would explain, no. Much more earthy spiciness to it. And now everybody knows what Cab Franc is. It's so popular here on the North Fork, and it does very, very well here. Our winemaker, his name's John Leo, and he's just with all our wines, as you experienced, Danny, he just is just amazing at his craft. And this is one that I just know every time I'm gonna grab a glass of Cabernet Franc, it's going to taste amazing. And I kind of gloat about it, and that is the one that I always, because it is my favorite, and one that it can be paired with food and something I love to enjoy on a day like this, cold, crisp autumn day, and put it on a nice fire and enjoy a glass of Cabernet Franc at the end of the day, and it makes me happy.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I love that. Love that you said that you want to go back for another sip each time. So that's really what the goal is, right? You want to enjoy it, and you want to, when you're pairing it with your food, that's the whole marriage between the two, between the food and the wine. And you want to have that extra sip and continue to pair it. So definitely blueberries, definitely some pepperiness to it. So we're going to do it with a Long Island duck breast, nice crispy skin, braised red cabbage, a nice crispy potato pancake or rosti, and a dried cherry and apricot sauce. It's time to bring out the duck breast from Long Island. So
sounds amazing.
Yeah, some other great things to pair this wine would be with lamb and other game. Beef would be great with it as well. Eggplant, actually, in doing some research, Cabernet Franc and eggplant is a great pairing. Hardy herbs like rosemary, and even sage and the thyme, all those earthy herbs that you get a nice strong fragrance from and flavor from. And surprisingly, one of the great pairings for Cabernet Franc is vegetarian food. So I guess because of all those, the vegetable notes to it and the earthiness to it. So what you would want to avoid starchier dishes with it, pasta, rice. So that's one of the things to avoid for Cabernet Franc, but great wine. Definitely wants you to keep taking another sip. So
that's for sure, definitely. So the next one, unfortunately, right now we actually just sold out of this one. I do have one remaining bottle left that I pulled. So actually, as you can see, it is open. So we opened it yesterday. So we're ending on this right now. We will be having Syrah again in the future, so fear not. But this is our
Heather, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your video, I don't know, Danny, do you have Heather's video?
No, it's not coming.
Yeah, we lost your video, but we can still hear you. And I'm sorry to the audience, but we sometimes don't have control of the connections and where we are. So, beautiful. You just came back. Okay, great.
Okay.
Yeah, you're back.
Okay.
Take two.
So,
Take two, exactly.
So now we're talking about the Syrah. Like I mentioned, this one, unfortunately, right now we are out of it at the tasting room. We just sold out this past week, but we will be getting this one back.
That's a good thing, though. Selling out is not a bad thing.
What's that?
Selling out's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing. It's always sad when they sell out, but never a bad thing. And we always, like I said, fear not, we will be getting Syrah again in the future. This one is drinking beautifully. And first thing I just want to mention, as you see, let me see if I can compare these two for you. This Cabernet Franc is a much bigger bottle, as you can see. This is a 500 milliliter. This is a 750 milliliter. The reason why this Syrah this particular year was in the 500 milliliter bottle, limited production. That was the only reason we wanted to be able to distribute as much as we could. We didn't produce as much as we do with other of our grape varietals. So we put it in a 500 milliliter bottle. So this one I always tell when people are looking for something a little bit more spicy, a little bit more peppery. This is the one I tend to send them off to. Has a nice jammy note up front, and then a beautiful pepper to the finish. Definitely a black pepper is what you get with the finish on this one.
Absolutely.
This one tends to be popular between people go between the Cabernet Franc and the Syrah. I noticed that people that tend to like the Cabernet Franc also seem to like the Syrah as well. So we're sad to see this one go, but as I mentioned, we will be getting another one in the future.
Well, I feel very lucky because when I was there with you that day, I took a bottle home. So,
Yes, you did.
and I haven't opened it yet, so I'm saving it for some braised short ribs with some white corn grits, some tricolor roasted heirloom carrots, and using that same wine to make that sauce, to make a demi-glaze with the sauce. I think it's a great way to cook with the wine that you're drinking with is always a great rule, in my opinion. Obviously you're not going to cook with a $200, $300, $400 bottle of wine, or maybe you will. I don't know. I mean, some people might, but I think it's a great way to carry it through when you're cooking and drinking the same wine. For sure, blackberry, plum, black pepper. Those are the forward notes for this wine. And some other great pairings for the Syrah could be barbecue dishes, spare ribs with that fattiness to it, venison, tuna, because it's tuna is very meaty, so it works. Other red meats, that's what you want to pair Syrah with. Even Gouda was one of the popular pairings. I guess that creaminess, that it could be a strong flavor as well. So avoiding seafoods, soles, shrimp, lobster, sour dishes you want to avoid with Syrah because it has that jamminess to it. So I think another great wine. So.
Yes, definitely. We went through the most of our reps. We have two more left of our wines. And we're going to be going back a little bit just to our white. This is our stainless steel Chardonnay. This is on 90% Chardonnay, 3% Gewürztraminer. So it gives a little bit of a pop to the finish, as I call it. But nice, crisp lemon notes, lemongrass notes to this one. Little grapefruity kind of. Some people say they taste a little grapefruity. I tend to taste a little more apple pear when I'm trying this one out. And then a beautiful dry finish to this one. This one's actually drinking, when people come in and they say they're looking for more of a Pinot Grigio, it's actually drinking more similar to a Pinot Grigio, that very light and crisp, because it's aged in that stainless steel compared to the traditional way Chardonnay is aged, which would be in the barrel. So a lot of people, as one thing I've gotten with people coming in and saying they're, I'm not a fan of Chardonnay. They tend to be talking about more of a barrel-aged Chardonnay, and I let them know that, we have all sorts. We have the barrel, we have the, like I mentioned before, we have the black label, which is a beautiful blend. We also have the stainless steel, which is a nice alternative because it's a little bit lighter, a little bit more crisp. Again, something that we see sell much faster during the summer because it's very light and crisp. I introduced them to this, and then I do like Chardonnay. So it just also does depend on how the wine is aged, whether it be in stainless steel or barrel fermented. So this is our stainless steel Chardonnay. Again, very light and crisp. Apple, a little fruitiness, apple-y pear in the front, with a beautiful dry finish.
So I think maybe some wine aficionados would say we're breaking a rule going back to white, but to me, there's no rules in wine tasting sometimes. It's really what you like and what works. So we're doing this one with a cheese course after our main course, and it's kind of like a savory dessert, which I love to do sometimes. Something in between to get you ready for the big sweet finish. So this is we're doing a Bailey Hazen blue cheese and poached pear tart. Bailey Hazen coming from Vermont, and with that pear note, I think it would go very, very well with the crisp Chardonnay.
Definitely.
So having a little fun with that one.
Yes. And then the last one we have here, speaking of desserts, let me see where
we made it. We made it through.
We made it through. We are up to our artifact. Again, a smaller bottle, same size as our Syrah, the 500 milliliter. This one is, we call it blueberry pie in a glass. It's just, it's not heavy or syrupy as some dessert wines can be. Has beautiful texture on the tongue, but just a beautiful blueberry flavoring to it. Just kind of fills your whole mouth, and gorgeous for the holiday time. I always recommend this one for the holiday time, Thanksgiving, Christmas, any of those beautiful more fall-y winter time to just go with desserts. And one of my favorites that sometimes I end my day with is our artifact. So you have it paired with dark chocolate, which I think is a wonderful way to pair this. I either say dark chocolate or cheesecake. Is beautiful to go together. Just wonderful flavors with it, and just would enhance it even more. So
yeah. We're also putting some Nutella in that layer cake, and that berry coulis, like either raspberries or blueberries or all sorts of darker berries, would go great with this too.
Definitely.
They say that your dessert wine should be sweeter than the dish, so that dark chocolate will add a little bit of that bitterness, and I think it'll do a great balance. But you could also You could also do it with some cheeses if you want after dinner. Some blue cheese, some olives, some pickles even. It's an interesting, I mean, it's really there's so many things that you could do with this wine, I think. And it goes great with sorbet, like fruity and berry sorbets. I would avoid milk chocolate because it's a little bit too creamy, I would say, or it's not going to give you that counterbalance of. Yeah. But again, another great bottle that I took home and haven't opened yet. So, so I'm looking forward to. But I did open the Chardonnay, so that was a great treat. So
very good.
I mean, pretty much. I think in going through these pairings, once again, the best thing to do is to think of your wine as an ingredient, and after that, balance all your tastes with sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and have fun with it. Have fun with it, and just keep trying. You might have to drink more wine, but you're definitely going to have fun by the end of the meal.
Yeah, that's for sure. I did notice that there was a question as to what grapes were in the artifact. I can give you it's a nice blend. It's predominantly 30% Merlot. It is 19% Cabernet Sauvignon, 16% Petit Verdot, and a little bit of Malbec and a little bit of Syrah. To answer your question.
That's great. Thank you. I was keeping my fingers crossed, Heather, because your Wi-Fi was going in and out a little bit. And I was like, and I'm so glad you were able to finish.
Out here on the north
finish it off. Definitely on this gloomy afternoon. Just the talk of the cherries and the blueberries and all the ingredients and the wine and how it goes so beautifully with that menu that you designed, Danny. I have to admit, I was off camera and I had to get a little snack because I'm starting to get hungry. It's you both of you described everything so well that my palate was starting to water. It just and the time of year. I was just as you were talking. I don't know if anyone else had a similar experience, but just thinking about the turkey and you were kind of getting me excited at thinking about Thanksgiving and the baking and the cooking and all of that. But it's a shame that we couldn't do this in person because obviously to taste the wines along with your descriptions and then Danny, if you would have cooked the food and we could have tasted, obviously the experience would have been more. But I hope everybody in listening today, like I said, certainly you were very descriptive. And like I said, you got me to go to the kitchen to get a snack because you really got the juices flowing and everything. So even though we weren't there in person, I feel like I felt the experience. So thank you. I will say, I think on the Chardonnay, when you said the steel versus the oak, I think I shared with you that my nose stuffs up when I have the oak. Yes. So I was really happy to hear that you had a Chardonnay that was steel.
And that's you like that one.
Yeah, no, I did like that one. It was light, it was crisp. But that's the question I have for you. I know when I started out, drinking wines, you were mentioning about the Merlot or Chardonnay. Those were the two, again, because of my age back then, I think Merlots and Chardonnays were probably the popular. Why is that we start with Merlot or Chardonnay? Or I don't know, nowadays maybe a lot of young people might start out with a rosé. And my second question is, what makes a wine so popular? Like rosé, all of a sudden, it was rosé. Even this summer, still rosé, frosé. Is it just take a celebrity to drink the wine and that gets everyone going? What do you think?
Could be a combination. I know it probably also depends on the region. I know Chardonnay and Merlot, they tend to grow very well here on the North Fork. So you're going to see a lot more of that on the North Fork. You see a lot of different grape varietals, as we mentioned. We went through many here. Whereas I think maybe on the West Coast, California, you're going to see a lot of Cavatelli, where that's a little bit more popular, maybe over there, because that has a much longer growing season. So I think it might be a combination of where you're having your wine, the region, the wine that you're having the wine in, as well as social media. I think that a great effect these days on things and people's opinions on things. And I think that one of the reasons rosé has gotten so popular. I also think, I mean, it's a beautiful wine. It's a nice, as I mentioned to you, Chef Danny and Susan, when you were here, is that I'm seeing a lot of younger people being introduced to wine. I think I don't recall when I was turning 21, wine was the first thing I went to. I would go to, with my schooling, I did art as well, and that was where I started getting introduced through art exhibits and things like that. Wine was usually served there, and I started to introduce my palate to wine. But I'm being, 21, especially 21, they're here, and it's nice to see that, wine is something that's becoming much more popular with even the younger crowds, and then it tends to grow, and palates tend to grow, and where I think rosé is a nicer one, a nice introduction, and then your palate expands, and you can expand then to the reds and the more full-bodied wines.
Would you agree, Danny?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think social media definitely plays a big role in the popularity of certain wines. For me, though, it really is important to pair it with the food and to enjoy it with the food. You could drink wine without food, and then people say, why am I getting a headache? Drinking wine all the time. Well, because you're not eating anything with it, maybe. I don't know.
Right.
So I think that's an important thing to consider. It just enhances everything. And it's just the possibilities of it all, the possibilities of, trying this with that. And it could be, it's great fun. I mean, it's really just, and I think that's really a great direction to go in,
But do you still feel, because I know I go back and forth with some of my friends that are wine connoisseurs, and do you feel like sometimes if someone loves Pinot Noir and that's all they want to drink? I mean, sometimes I'm like, no, why are you drinking this with the food? And they're like, it doesn't matter. This is what I like. This is what I like to drink. And
well,
they don't.
That is okay too. I mean, if somebody doesn't want to, branch out from their favorite, that's okay too. And if the food is tasting good with what they like and it's really recommended,
right.
It goes back to that. There are no rules.
Right.
Really, when it comes to wine, if you like a $5 bottle as opposed to a $50 bottle, that's another thing too, right? There's great $10 bottles of wine out there, $15 bottles of wine out there too. So, and if it is something that you're going to get into, that's a great way also to not break the bank too sometimes. So, I mean, I think the Clovis Point wines are priced very fairly for their, for their profile and for the way that they drink, So I think that's also something to note that,
Right. No, that's a good point. Heather, would you agree? I mean, based on your wines, I know you have different price points, and you've probably tasted a lot of wine over the years. Do you find that price and taste, does it go hand in hand?
I think, yes, and I mean, I like Chef Danny said, there are wines out there that that people love and enjoy, and they're $10 for the bottle. And I hear people say that to me all the time when they come in. Oh, my favorite is, and then they go, oh, like they're doing something bad. And it's not, it's your palate, it's what you enjoy. What we're suggesting are suggestions. to what you might want to pair it with, what will enhance the flavors of the wines. Doesn't mean you have to enjoy the rosé with what we're suggesting. You want to enjoy it with a nice big old steak, go ahead and enjoy it. And you know, I think sometimes the mentality of you know, the very expensive wine, so you know, you feel like, oh, I have this. It has to be that, it has to be good, or it, you know, I'm not drinking an expensive bottle. It's what you enjoy.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah,
not to
I agree.
The great, you know, the great expensive wines too, but it's also fun to do a blind tasting and to see where your body's going and where your brain is thinking, you know. And
I think
often you can, and often it proves that way.
No, I think you both said it with the palate. I know personally, even for myself, I grew up with my grandfather making homemade wine in a family store that we had, you know, 3 o'clock. You know, we couldn't find my grandfather. He was downstairs, you know, checking the wine, tasting the wine. You know, I mean, I was 8, 9 years old. I was downstairs. My grandfather's giving me like little sips, and, you know, I would make sure I would sit next to him at the dinner table. He would dunk the peaches in the wine, and since I was right next to him, he would serve that to me. You know, I wasn't stupid. I made sure I sat right next to him. So I have to say, at a very young age of like probably 8 or 9 or whatever, I remember, you know, having my tongue was tasting that wine. And then over the years, obviously, as I got older and had friends who really were into wines, I tasted a lot of really, really expensive wines. And I would say, again, it was the palate, because sometimes he would say, you know, my friend would say, oh, this is a great bottle of wine. And I almost felt embarrassed to say, I really don't like this. And meanwhile, it was like $200. Yeah. So sometimes you're right. Sometimes it really doesn't matter the price. It all comes down to the taste and what you like. But I have to say, my personal opinion, I do like to pair the wine with the food, because especially at Thanksgiving, and I've done this a couple of times, if you just pair the right wine with the turkey, the flavors are enhanced. I found that. But again, if everybody wants to drink the wines they want, I'm all for that. You know, you drink what you want, and you're supposed to sit down at a dinner table and really enjoy the dining experience. And another thing that I learned that I'd like to share with everyone, there's a Netflix show that's called The Truth of Alcohol. And I learned a lot about it. It's a doctor who I think is drinking a little bit too much in London, and he wanted to find out, you know, why he's drinking so much and all of this. And they did say that when you drink alcohol without food, it'll go straight to your intestines. But if you have it with food, it'll go right to your stomach, and it will digest more, and it won't absorb into your system as quickly. So what you're saying, Danny, there is some truth to it, scientific, that it is better to have alcohol with food. And I have another friend who also feels that, you know, if a lot of people are drinking and they have salad, the wine with the vinegar sometimes will give you a funny taste. I don't know if both of you feel that if you use vinegar or some things like that to the food, do you find it could change the taste of the wine?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you need to be careful with the sourness of the vinegar balance in certain wines. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it also, you know, it aids in digestion, you know, as you're talking about drinking wine while eating, you know. So it really, it's a whole body experience, you know. Mm-hmm. Not to get too existential.
Right. Well, I don't know. The audience seems to be quiet. Does anyone have any questions for Heather and Danny? You can write them in the Q&A section, and we can share your questions with them.
I think I did.
Did you see something?
About where the name of the wine came from? I believe that popped
Oh,
up.
yes, I was going to ask that anyway, so I'm glad someone did. I didn't see that question. Thanks for bringing that up, Heather, because I think that's very interesting.
So particularly, I don't know if they were particularly asking about the artifact. The other wines, Sauvignon Blanc, the Rosé, and so on and so forth that we talked about, to call something a particular grape varietal, has to have 75% of that grape varietal higher in the blend. So if it's called like our Chardonnay, our stainless steel Chardonnay is 97% Chardonnay, 3% Gewürztraminer, so it does have that 75% or higher, so we can call a Chardonnay. Whereas our artifact, as I mentioned, when somebody asked me what was in the artifact, it's the highest we have is about 30% Merlot, so it doesn't hit that 75% category. So obviously we would not call it a Merlot. So we came up with the name artifact. We also have a wine currently that we are out of as well that we call Archaeology, which is a larger red blend, predominantly Cabernet Franc, because our winery is called Clovis Point. We thought it was a nice play on Clovis Point, Arrowhead, and Artifact. It's an artifact, so we call this wine Artifact, and Archaeology is the study of artifacts. So that's where we came up. We actually came up with the name for the wine, and we did it with a play of the winery's name.
Yeah, I just saw the question pop up now. I don't know why it took so long to come up. And you said the artifact, they think originated from the West Coast, from New Mexico or something?
Like I said,
do you know that for sure?
It's not a history buff,
right.
but what I've been told and what I've heard is that they found two of the Clovis Point arrowheads within the region. So the owners thought it'd be interesting to name the winery after that. And as again, I don't have my fact check here, but as far as I know, the arrowheads that some of the arrowheads that they found here in the region are at the South Fold Museum. But apparently it was the Clovis Point. I guess the original artifact might have been, again, but might have found in Clovis, New Mexico, is where maybe the first artifact of the Clovis people was found, but they're noticing that it has been, they were finding these artifacts throughout the U.S. and I'm assuming other countries.
Heather, do you know how many vineyards are now on the North Fork in total? Do you have that number?
I don't know in total.
Yeah.
I think it's around 50.
Really?
Okay. Give or take. I don't know offhand the exact
right.
amount.
And are the vineyards rated? Like, do you have? Because I know when I've gone to your vineyards, you had a lot of, or even a lot of different vineyards. I noticed they have ribbons, and is there a certain association that rates the wine and all of that locally?
Well, we tend to send our wines into like the wine tasting competitions. That's where we win gold medals. We've won double gold in the New York competitions that we have here. So that's where we've won many of our awards in New York and the North and the Finger Lakes region as well. But I don't know if there's any particular rating for offhand. There may be. For all the wineries on the North Fork. So I can't say that I know if there is one or not.
We just had one of our viewers said that they were from Arizona, and they will be sure. It's only 11 a.m. there. They said they'll be sure to be drinking some wine later on because of your wonderful presentation. And they said it's a true art form. So they thank you for sharing that with us. I don't know if we may have one other question. What are some food and wine pairing 101 pieces of advice you can share with us today? We'll put that to Danny.
Drink what you enjoy. I mean, and have fun with it, and, keep trying different wines with different foods. And it could be it just could be a lot of fun and a great experience. But really there are no, I can't sit here and tell you, don't drink this with this, because because everyone's chemistry is different too, right? Everyone's like this you're talking about is different too. So it might taste different to you than the next person. So drink what you enjoy.
It's a great way to close out. Do you have I'm sorry, I'll let Heather close out as well.
I was just going to say,
do you have a couple
don't be
words
afraid
on
to
that?
try things. Even if you think you might not like it, every bottle of wine and combination of wine is different, and every pairing is different. So don't be afraid to branch out, try new things, and maybe try things you thought you might not like or you didn't like in the past. Things change, and definitely keep your options open.
That's great. Great way to close out here. I can't thank both of you enough for your time, sharing your expertise with us today. Like I said, everything was delicious. Definitely, if you are a society member, you're part of the Lachlan or McCown Society. Like I said, every summer, Clovis Point is so hospitable, and they welcome St. John's out to the vineyards, and we have a spectacular summer social in July. And I really hope and pray that we can get past this pandemic and we can be there with you, Heather, and Chef Danny, of course, is coming, because this time I have my idea, and Chef Danny said he can help me with it, that I want to do a wonderful farm-to-table dinner. So you have to be part of the Lachlan McCown Society to receive an invitation. So think about joining our societies, because we have great fun, and hopefully we have this event to look forward to in the summertime. I really am going to keep my fingers crossed. And one other thing I just want to mention to the viewers, it's our 150th anniversary, and we have a 3-part series, Who Was St. John's, a historical audit by our Professor Susie Pack, who's part of our Department of History at St. John's College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. And the first part of the series is on October 19th from 1:50 to 3:25. And we'll send that link to you in our follow-up email after the WebEx. So thank you for joining us. I hope you had a great afternoon and you were powered up at our Power Hour. Thanks so much. And join us October 27th, French Food and Wine and Culture. And it's going to be our first live discussion. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we can pull this off, but that'll be really fun as well. So I hope you can join us for that. So thanks, everyone. Thanks again, Chef Danny and Heather.
Thanks,
and hopefully I'll be out there soon to visit you, Heather.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
definitely.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.